This is just a plain over and under weave, and I have sprayed these guys a little bit just because I want them to come out. And it's been a while since I got back to this. So I'm going to start by using a clip just to hold that in place. So this is an over and under weave, right? Every other one. And when you start a plain weave, you always start on top of the weave. And it's not really until you get about 3 rows in here that it actually starts behaving. So if you want, you can always use some clips to hold that in place for the first row or 2, and that'll help. Just start bringing these guys up. In fact, I think I will put another clip on it again. So make it a little easier. You don't need these long, but it does help keep things in place and the right tension. I'm loosening up until you get that second, third row around there. All right, so that was holding. That leftover triple twine, I don't need that anymore. I'll put that clip on there to hold that. Now, remember we had this piece and we divided it, right? So we have an odd amount. Well, now we need an even amount. So that means that we're going to treat that split as a single piece again. Put a clip on there quick. So remember, the split guy now is going to be 1 versus 2. So as I come around to where I started, I should be on top of that guy, and I am. So there's where I started. And I'm going to count 4 past it, including this first one. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'm going to make my cut. Because you don't want to see where a basket starts or ends. Okay, so I can see that that's correct because it's on top of it. And I want to count 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and make the cut. And then I'm going to take that off there quick, and this overlaps on top of what you had. I am a lap weaver. If I can put something in my hands, then I can make it happen. But sometimes on a table, it's not as easy. So anyway, so there's my first row. Okay, so I'm going to do 3 of these and then come back and show you what this looks like. So you can see on this piece, it's not going to be long enough. So we want to use all the reed that we can in the most efficient manner that we can. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut that off so that it's on top of that mistake, always on top. And get myself another weaver that's wet. And I'm going to treat that then just like it was a start-stop. So I'm going to come back 4, 1 from here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to put that piece on top of it. And there you go. So it looks like an ending, but it isn't. So then I come to my ending, right? And that splice in there, and I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. Make the cut. And then I'm going to weave it right on top of it. And 3 rows. I'll see where this is going. Okay. And I'm flaring out. If you like to weave on the table, you can see the shape of your basket better. I'll say that. I always want to stagger these. When I start, I just wanted you guys to be able to see my hands, and at that angle you can't see my hands. So, and at this point I probably won't use a clip. You can every time you start, but I usually don't. And the rest of so this is kind of like the inside wall, right? So this is going to be the form, basically, that we're weaving for all that cool embellishment on the outside. So it doesn't hurt to do a row. And then sit it on the table and see how it looks and make any adjustments that you might need to. 1, 2, 3, 4. Almost perfect. So we can't see our beginning or end. So let's take a look at this. I could pull this out just a little bit. But on the whole, I'm pretty happy with it. So I am just going to keep doing what I'm doing. Remember that whatever way the stakes are going, that's the way it's going to weave. So if you got some that are going out, flaring out, that's great. Some that maybe not be, that's the potential for an area that's going to start coming in. So give those pieces a little bit of water and tell them, dude, seriously, I want you to go out. Remember, you are the master of your basket. So you don't want to crimp it. All you're doing is just give it a little bit of moisture and a little bit of pressure and telling it, you know, seriously, I want you to come out this way. And it will. Okay. All right. So we have several more rows of this to do. And then we're going to do some cut and tuck and do some of the work on the outside. So we have got all the weaving done. There's about 13 rows here. And we're going to cut and tuck this. And then we're going to do our other layer on top. And do our weaving on the outside of this. So, first thing we're going to do is make sure all these ends of the stakes are good and wet. Okay, so the ones on the inside be the inside of the weave right there. Those get cut flush. And what I like to do is pull it back a little bit and cut it just a little bit below that. Because trying to get it cut flush next to it, yeah, it doesn't really happen very good. So this one is going to get bent over. See that cracks a little bit? That's fine. And then we're going to put a point on it and we're going to tuck it. And that actually holds the weave in. So you can see down here what I'm going to do is come down to the, I think it's a third row of weaving. And all I want to do is just tuck that in there like that. See how that's tucked in? Okay, so every other one. This one's going to get cut flush. It's our double one. It's bent over. Put a point on it, stick it through there. Okay. I can't see that with my eye. Okay, there it is. I'm going to open that up. Still can't see it. And I'm going to stick that through there. If I have trouble, I'm going to use my weave right tool. Okay. Stuck it down through there. I'm going to do this all the way. Here is our basket, all cut and tucked. Okay. So it's all ready to go. All we need to do now is put in our second wall stakes. And that's coming up next. So we've got our stakes in for the outer wall of the basket. And as you can see, I've put the black ones underneath that first row of 1/2 inch and the red ones underneath the second row of 1/2 inch. So these are all ready to go. And what I'm going to do to hold them in place is I'm going to twine them. So, and in this case, we're just going to take this and loop it and put it over one. Like I say. Okay, so actually it'd probably be better to start on a red set than a black, because you're going to have it level with the red up here, you're twining. So in front of one, behind one, and make sure each section, as you're doing this, you can spread them out, but make sure each section has 5. Front of one, behind one. And I'm going to do 2 rows of this to make sure that these stay there nice. As you come to the black section, that's going to be, let me see, I have 4 in here, so 1 dropped. We've gotten the first 5 rows of twill done on this, and let's see it close. A little hard to see in that light. So it's a 2-2 twill, and I'm going to do 1 row so you can see what I'm doing. So when you start, you want to start someplace where you didn't end. So this is a 2-2 twill, which means it goes over 1 stake by 1. You want the shiny side out when you're weaving. So I'm going to look for where this is a double over, and then I'm going to split that by 2. Bring that down tight. So I'm over 2 there. So I'm over 2, under 2. Now this is start, stop. It's not continuous. Okay, you can see that we're on to the red rows here of twill. I'm going to do about 4 of those rows. It's harder to see. One thing I do want you to do when you have this red, because red bleeds, is take a minute and wipe it through an old cloth or paper towel so it's not drippy. You need it wet, but you don't want it drippy. Okay, so I'm going to do a row here just to show you what I'm doing. Okay, so when I'm looking at this, and this is bulkier, okay, kit will be material that's less bulky, but I'm looking for that 2 over. You want to choose a spot that does not have a start on it. So here's a 2 over, and I want to split that by 1. Okay, and you can see because this is thicker material, it's going to be pulled down some. So over 2, under 2. And we're going to do this for 4 rows, and then we're going to change to something different. So once again, just keeping it down in there tight, keeping your stakes straight. It's a little bit easier because these stakes are a little further apart. Okay. You want your stakes dry because that makes them more rigid. And your weaver wet, but not dripping wet because you don't want to be bleeding. I've gotten into my natural part of the weave now. You can see that a little easier now with the contrast. It's still doing a 2-2 twill. One of the things, though, that I want to talk to you about as you do this is keeping this tight. You want this tight up against your first layer. And the way that you do that is, because it'll tend to flare out, so when you take your stroke, pull a little bit. Now see, I'm holding these 2 layers together and pulling a little bit. You want it tight, and you don't want it what I call piano can. And it doesn't look like it's much. It's just a little bit of squeeze. But it makes a big difference in the basket and it being tight up against that first wall. Remember what we did with that first wall is we made basically a mold. So you want to take advantage of that mold by pulling just a little bit. Like I say, I'm still doing a 2-2 twill all the way around. Okay, so we started out with a cane, and then we went to the red, and now we're with the white, and I'll probably go back to red and black again. All right, so we're getting pretty close to the end here, but I want to talk to you about how close I am to that layer, and that's from pulling it a little bit. You can see it's pretty close. And I didn't get it too much. See how that'll buck a little bit if you get to pulling it too tight. So it's kind of that fine line there. All right, you don't want it to buckle on the inside, but you don't want it to be loose on the outside. So if you got a choice, I'd have more buckle on the inside because it's going to be hidden anyways. So one thing I did want to talk to you about too is when you're feeling like this could be a little tighter, maybe it looks a little gappy to you, you can walk up your twill. Okay, let's say you need about 3 or 4 rows. Let's go back here and look. I can walk up that twill and tighten that up a little bit if I want. So if you're feeling like your twill's a little bit gappy, you can always step it up. I'm going to do I think 5 rows of this, and then I'm going to finish off in black. So here we are at the end, and I've done finished it up with some black here. And the one thing that you want to make sure that you do is on this last row of 1/2 inch, you don't want to go any further than that because we're going to cut these off. But when I put the rim on it, I want to be able to lash, so I don't need to weave that all the way up there. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and trim these guys so that they are flush with the rim, and I'll go all the way around and do that. You get an idea what it's going to look like. Okay, and then I'll rim it.